The biggest protests since the death of longtime Venezuelan leader Hugo Chavez nearly a year ago continue to sweep Venezuela. These have expanded from what started as student protests, which we reported on earlier in February, on a campus, to now multiple cities across the country involving students, involving the middle class, involving all sorts of people from really all walks of life. And on Monday, residents in the capital city of Caracas and other cities piled furniture, tree limbs, chain link fence, sewer grates, and washing machines to block roads in a coordinated action against the government. And behind all of this outpouring that has really happened during February in Venezuela, we still have the same issues that caused so many of the protests: incredible rates of inflation, incredible insecurity, shortages when it comes to milk, toiletries, etc., and the aggressive response from President Nicolas Maduro, who won a questionably valid election, seem to actually be agitating public dissent even more. And on Monday, even the state governor, who belongs to Nicolas Maduro's party, broke ranks and challenged the president's tactics, saying the students have a right to protest. The students are absolutely right in criticizing the flyovers. And this is very rare in this type of regime, Lewis, where you have an important elected official from Maduro's own party saying, hold on a second, I'm not sure I even like what's going on.
Right. Well, if anyone didn't like it, then I guess this guy just started to kind of pave the way for others to do the same thing. And in other countries, we've seen military leaders and other people associated with the administration or whatever dictator separate, and then we kind of see that avalanche a bit.
Right. And when we look at the actual opposition, we've talked about opposition leader Leopoldo Lopez from the Mesa de la Unidad party. He's criticized as being a right-winger in spite of the fact that, as we've called attention to in the past, his party is a coalition party that has social democrats and Marxists and socialists within it. There is another opposition leader or prominent figure in the opposition, which is Enrique Capriles, who is a more progressive opposition leader. He ran against Nicolas Maduro back in that special election in 2013, and he is someone who is far more progressive. If you look at his positions, he would move away from these ties with Iran, for example, that Venezuela has built. He is far more liberal than Leopoldo Lopez. So again, when we look at the opposition, really ranging from conservative to liberal, including coalitions. Now, when we look at these, the thing I want to address today is when people email me and they say, David, you're ignoring the fact that the Chavez administration and the Maduro administration in its infancy have significantly reduced poverty in Venezuela. Let's discuss that a little bit. The poverty reduction is an unclear claim. Number one, we are judging the numbers of a government that limits press freedom incredibly, that has a completely corrupt judicial and prison system. So if you want to say, hey, I trust the Venezuelan numbers on poverty reduction, I would question that. But let's assume for a second that you don't dismiss the numbers out of hand. There is no denying that there exists incredible inflation in Venezuela. And if you look historically in the relatively modern era and say, have there been examples where there has been such true poverty reduction coinciding with such significant inflation, and you can't find them? So that is yet another piece of the puzzle, Lewis, where if you say to me, look at the incredible inflation in Venezuela, and by the way, look at the incredible rate of poverty reduction, it doesn't fit from an economic perspective. And it is even more of a push in the direction of not believing the poverty reduction numbers.
Right. And from a country that closely controls the media and things of that nature, how do we really know if the information we're getting from that country is accurate?
And the last thing on this, even if it is true that in spite of this unheard of poverty reduction, when it coincides with such inflation, let's assume it's true. When you reduce poverty by giving people oil money, in essence, to buy their votes, that is not really the type of poverty reduction that is productive in terms of generating employment and building an economy. I know this. Argentina had this issue when they put all of their eggs in the basket of agriculture, soy, as well as beef exports. When you are simply focused in one area, as Venezuela is on petroleum, and you just are redistributing that money, you may be able to reduce poverty on paper, but it is not the type of poverty reduction that will lead to a positive economic outcome.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to be a long-term fix for your country's problems. And of course, with petroleum, even less so, because that is something that's not going to last.